Okay, welcome to the CIECAst. This is Fred Iantorno, Executive Director of CIECA. In today's CIECAst, Michael Naoom will discuss the emergence of intelligent first notice of loss and how it can be used during the claims process. He will talk about the importance of adopting digital claims and what the industry needs to do to remain competitive and avoid disruption. Michael has served in various roles within the automotive service and collision industry for over 20 years. In 2013, he began working at Autotext as Director of Professional Services, leading the company's team of strategic account managers, consulting with the company's clients on their metrics and aiding in the development of new products. Michael joined Safelite Solutions in 2016 as AVP of Claims Experience, where he is responsible for auto claims, product development strategy, and implementation. Michael is also a CIECA board member and committee volunteer. We thank him for his generous time commitments. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please type your questions into the webinar navigation pane. We will answer as many as possible at the end of the presentation. I want to thank everyone for spending your time with us today and to Michael for sharing his insight and expertise with us. I will now turn this over to Michael. Michael?
All right. Thanks for the introduction, Fred, and thank you for the opportunity to share this information. I'm going to share with everybody here a little bit about the first notice of loss experience. Some of the information is going to be what Safelite Solutions has learned over the course of many years of first notice of loss, and some of it's going to be based on studies and information from third parties. Really encourage questions and welcome them. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So for many insurers today, the claim process is a point of differentiation for them. And in fact, as we are all consumers of insurance, we pay our premiums and we don't really think about it until the event of a claim occurs. And when that claim happens, we're weighing that experience against the premiums that we pay. And the data tells us that most of us will shop for insurance when a claim occurs. So really that challenge of that perfect claim experience is part and parcel to how that customer, the policyholder, decides on whether or not they choose to renew that policy, and also whether they choose to recommend that insurance company to their friends and family. So what makes the perfect claims experience? Insurance needs to be as a modern retail experience for personal lines and offer a slick, professional service for commercial and arguably above all in claims. Intelligent FNOL is the non-negotiable foundation for this and to make claims really work for everyone. So understanding the customer experience and making the customer service expectations drive the insurers to act more like modern retailers. Today, in the age of Amazon and Apple, where service is so simple and easy, these are really where insurers are being compared to. No longer are they being compared to just their peers. Intelligent electronic first notice of loss, or FNOL, is that non-negotiable foundation for this to make claims really work for everyone. So as just a brief background to kind of establish Safelite's experience in this space, Safelite represents over 200 first notice of loss programs managing about 15 million calls a year and about 1.5 million non-glass claims every year, including auto, property, workers' compensation, and of course, auto physical damage. We measure our success based on Net Promoter Score and our speed to service with our customers. So unexpected ease of use can turn a negative really into a positive. Claimants that receive more assistance with repair facility options, for example, are more satisfied than those who do not receive assistance. Claimants that receive adequate help in selecting a repair facility have an overall CSI of 876 versus 798 among those that desired more help. This is according to J.D. Power on a 1,000-point scale. For a point of reference, J.D. Power tells us that a movement of 3 points of score is considered significant. So clearly moving from 798 to 876 makes a really big difference. The same is true when looking at satisfaction for the repair process, where it's 877 score versus 91. And insurance recommendations really matter. In fact, claimants that used a repair facility that was recommended by their insurer are more satisfied than when using a shop they had in mind. So all of this helps to inform the process of how long it takes in cycle time and overall claim satisfaction to that customer. Driveable claims are becoming more manageable than ever. Customers with drivable losses often have to schedule an appointment for an estimate. That takes time away from work to get that done. This contributes to a really long cycle time when you measure it from the first notice of loss to the estimate. In fact, CCC data tells us that it's over 17 days for many customers with drivable losses. For those customers unsure when or where they will get their vehicle repaired, that path can be really frustrating. Going back to J.D. Power data, we know there's a 12-point overall CSI increase when customers are offered and use a mobile self-service versus a non-mobile option. Similarly, there's a 20-point increase in claim services, an 8-point increase in settlement. And this is really due to relatively low scores for those using email to submit photos or videos. It's important to note, though, that use of self-service generally has a negative impact on satisfaction. However, there are two interesting notes related to use of an insurer's mobile app. Among all claimants, submitting photos or video via an insurer's mobile app results in overall CSI and satisfaction with the estimating process that more often than not are higher when they use it. So the takeaway here is for those insurers who offer a self-service solution that the customer be allowed to follow all the way through the process. Typically, satisfaction drops off sharply when the customer submits photos through a self-service solution and then has to interact with an adjuster coming out to see their car. It's really important to note that the electronic FNOL is not a cure-all. So let's start with just a brief definition of what electronic FNOL is. Electronic FNOL is a first notice of loss process where the policyholder is able to submit the loss details other than by phone. Typically, this can be through a mobile app or it can be through an online portal. Few customers adopting digital FNOL offerings today. Although customer use of technology has increased over the past 5 years, 65% of claimants have received a digital status update, with the majority of that done in combination with offline status updates. FNOL currently has the lowest technology utilization, with just 11% of claimants filing an FNOL via digital channel. Customer satisfaction is often lower when using a digital FNOL channel. FNOL satisfaction is lower among customers who submit their claim digitally than among those who report via offline channels. The difference is about 9 points according to J.D. Power. So what does that really mean? It means that what customers are telling us is that they love the simplicity and the ease of submitting their electronic FNOL or their loss facts online. What they don't like is the many additional steps and lots of questions that they're forced to answer that they feel may not be necessary or that their insurance company should already know. So these are some best practices that SafeLight Solutions has learned over the years, and we have adopted from others, from peers in the industry or technology companies that we have leveraged. It's really important to get to a quick capture. What that means is that the customer service representative, the person who's taking that first notice of loss, is able to follow the caller's story and not the claims process. For those of you on the phone who either have worked for an insurance company or have seen a first notice of loss process, you know that the systems that are used at FNOL often dictate the process. And usually the first question that a CSR is forced to ask is something to identify that person, a claim number, a policy number, etc. And that actually drives the process as opposed to being able to hear the customer story and be fluid in taking that first notice of loss according to how the customer wants to be spoken to. Very important to have early access to caller information. Many companies use a solution that pre-fills information. So it knows the inbound caller's phone number, it recognizes that and automatically populates information. So the CSR is just verifying a couple of key facts instead of having to go through every single point of detail. Accurate and comprehensive loss descriptions are very important, and limiting the cause of loss options by mapping them together makes for a much more simple and streamlined process, shortening the amount of time the customer has to be on the phone with the CSR. Offering systematic check and integrated assignments means being able to offer that customer solutions and services and make the assignment process occur at first notice of loss. What you're really trying to go for here is a combination of taking the first notice of loss and the triage of the claim, so that that customer, once they confirm, once you confirm the details at the end of it, they know exactly what their service options are, what has been delivered to them, and they also can get a confirmation at the very end by an email if they so choose. So I share with you this kind of diagram. This has been our experience in interacting with our clients, that their process of first notice of loss and triage and claim resolution is often kind of like a relay race. What that means is that after the loss occurs and the customer reports the first notice of loss, typically that person taking the FNOL is a non-technical person, will take the facts of the loss and pass it on to an adjuster. And that period of time from the first notice of loss to when the loss is actually triaged can be as little as a few hours, an hour, to several days. In fact, in our experience with many insurers, if I report my loss on Friday afternoon at 5:30, I may not hear from an adjuster and begin the triage process until after the weekend. Then after that triage, there's an offering of an appropriate method of inspection, and then ultimately an estimate. And for customers, that can take over 10 days to get to that point from when the loss occurred to the estimate. That's really one of the pain points. The old ways of capturing FNOL really hurt everybody. This causes delays, drops in the overall claim satisfaction because expectations that the customer has aren't often met. Extends the cycle time due to multiple customer contacts, and each one of those customer contacts carries a loss adjustment expense that the insurance company has to reckon with. It also increases the likelihood that the customer will not renew the policy. So this brings us to the emergence of intelligent FNOL. I'm going to pause for a moment and just make a couple of definitions. I already shared what an eFNOL is. I'm going to introduce a term of intelligent or iFNOL or instant FNOL. What that means is that through the use of technology, that can be technology embedded in a connected car or technology that is leveraged through a smartphone. The point of this solution is that the FNOL process is initiated not by the driver or the vehicle owner, but by the vehicle or the smartphone, where it recognizes that it's potentially been in an accident and reports loss details automatically. And often the insurer will reach out to that vehicle owner or driver and verify that that in fact was an accident, and the loss taking begins from there. So being involved in it, even in a minor collision or having a burst pipe, can be a very stressful situation. And the last thing that you want an insurance customer in this situation is to enter into a scripted conversation that begins with, "What's your policy number?" So making the most of this by using voice and customer partnership and empathy is key. When an incident occurs, it's very common for customers to do one of two things. Either they're digging through their email inbox for their policy documents. That's even if they know who their insurer is. They might visit the insurer's website and try to click on make a claim. Either way, what happens will in most instances be a telephone-led journey. Claims handlers supported by the right capabilities don't necessarily have to follow a script. They can be empowered to follow their human instinct and have a real conversation and start with the human aspect first and empathy, which is what that customer wants. When it comes to capturing the details, customers may be given a choice of recording what happened using their smartphone in their own time. When given that option, this is what most people often want to do. It's important to stress that in our experience, we've learned that for many customers, they see claims kind of falling into two different areas. That can be a transactional claim or an emotional claim. So using an example, if you're driving down the road and a rock comes up and chips your windshield, most people would look at that and view that as an inconvenience or a transactional claim. There's typically a lot less emotion involved in that minor type of claim than if I were driving down the road, get into an accident, and potentially have injuries. That becomes much more emotional, and the probability that me as an insurance customer wants reassurances from somebody at my insurance company is much higher. So automating the claims experience is one of those kind of buzz phrases that we hear, just like we've been listening to big data and blockchain, etc. LexisNexis surveyed 24 senior-level auto insurance executives from the top 50 automotive insurance companies, as well as almost 1,800 insurance purchasers between 25 and 65. And the results all point to a careful balance between claim automation and empathy. The report gave some really great insights demonstrating that automotive insurance carriers are continuing to embrace virtual claims process, with about 95% using or considering virtual handling. Touchless claims are also growing in popularity, with almost 80% of carriers surveyed open to or considering using it. That's up from about 42% just 18 months ago. Consumers with prior claim experience often show rapid reduction in claim satisfaction when they have to talk to more than one person. In fact, that information is echoed in J.D. Power surveys and claim satisfaction as well. So FNOL creates new efficiencies. It enables a customer to submit the loss facts electronically. Claims handlers don't have to follow a script. The customer can document the incident via video and photos of the damage. And the customer oftentimes can be sent this to kick off that process via text, email, or web app. So the result is a lot of time and frustration really saved for the customer, and a significant operational expense cost savings for the insurer. Remembering that this is never really a one-size-fits-all, and that the concept of being able to offer multiple channels of loss reporting are important. So some of the roadblocks that insurers run into from implementing electronic FNOL solutions, only about a third of the 800 executives surveyed achieved significant results from transformation initiatives. Said another way, that means that many insurers are not realizing the benefit that they hoped to after a significant amount of investment. So earlier this year, EXL partnered with the Harvard Business Review to survey a little over 800 executives around the world about their company's progress on digital transformation. They found that only about a third of them had achieved significant results from their transformation initiatives. And insurance companies specifically were even lagging further behind than that. So that begs the question, what's holding them back? Well, a big area of contention is around allowing machines to make decisions instead of humans. Most believe that the key principle is the augmentation of human capital by machine. So using the example of fraud detection as a prime example. So in the example, there's validation and fraud screening, allowing the machine to make the decision instead of a human, with the ultimate goal being for every claims handler to have the best validation and anti-fraud tool, and allow the easy claims that should be settled quickly to pass through, and those that require additional work to be passed on to a human. But that's not the only thing that holds insurers back. The insurance industry really struggles to remain digitally relevant more so than under other industries. There's some unique challenges with legacy infrastructure, institutional adoption of innovation, and really what we've seen in our experience is organizational and leadership alignment. The insurance industry is uniquely more challenged to remain up to date digitally than other industries. Many insurers are hobbled by legacy systems, which makes it difficult for them to adopt new technologies, and not only difficult, but exceptionally expensive. Survey data also shows that insurance companies are staying away from establishing centralized program management offices for the digital initiatives, which often leads to piecemeal and siloed approach to transformation. So there's often a disconnect between the claims operation, the innovation arms, and the customer and how they're able to execute these things, leading to a significant amount of investment and perhaps not the ROI they expected, or enough roadblock challenges in organizational structure to keep them from even trying. So getting digital right is really critical to success. Companies that successfully transform place in the top quartile of their industries, and those that do not are threatened with disruption. In today's environment, a company's digital strategy needs to sit at the foundation of the overall corporate strategy. But the promise of digital has yet to be achieved because digital transformation has primarily been driven by the creation of digital channels and the implementation of technology. But digital transformation is more than digital engagement. It includes digitization across all industry processes. And technology plays a really big role in enabling that change, but it doesn't guarantee the transformation on its own. So outcomes can include improvements in customer experience and more intelligent execution, or business outcomes like revenue and profitability. But they must be quantified and committed to up front before the digitization effort is introduced. Beginning transformation with a firm grasp of the outcomes to be achieved improved one client's claims management function by increasing first call resolution by 32% and reducing cost to serve for claims by about 30%. So the reward is very much worth the effort, but what's required is a very cohesive plan and alignment within the organization on what's expected, how it's going to be achieved, and who owns it. So as technology advances, carriers believe that their business will implement enhanced automation in the next 3 to 5 years, with forward-leaning carriers expecting the share of their touchless claims to range from anywhere from 15 to 95% as they continue to figure out how to operationalize these claim types. LexisNexis report also found that as automation for non-complex automotive claims continues to enhance and expand, it will make most significant improvements to FNOL and repair estimates for customers. A great example of this are the existence of Snapsheet helping to offer solutions that automate simple drivable losses for customers and making the process simpler. There are many other companies in addition to Snapsheet that offer that. I just use them as a well-known example. At the end of the day, it's all about getting the orchestration of technology and people together to get the maximum possible impact. It's a transformed workflow leveraging investigation, evaluation, and settlement with process cost and analytics, transforming the back office and automatically fast-tracking the right claim that meets specific criteria. And then when all of that is put together correctly, these interventions improve your capacity, cycle time, and settlements, as well as fraud detection. First contact into the front office via digital channel, such as claim reporting features inside mobile apps, which are increasingly common. A transform claim workflow includes all of these components and leads to efficiencies for the customer, which means higher retention, and it also leads to operational efficiency within the organization. I suppose no claims conversation relative to automation could be complete without talking about Lemonade. Usually when I use this example in presentations, I often hear, well, Lemonade's not going to exist, their loss ratios are too high. But I think many people kind of miss the point of what Lemonade is doing. Lemonade has kind of transformed the process by doing what I referred to earlier, disrupting an industry that is in a position of great obstacle of adopting new technology. So they built themselves from the ground up to be easy to do business with. And their success financially is really secondary to how they're forcing the market to react. Many companies are looking at what they're doing and finding ways to automate. Some So you see what Lemonade has done here is they've taken the process of insurance from the purchasing and binding of a policy all the way through claim settlement and automated it. So they've made it very easy for their customers to interact with them. From my own personal experience, I won't share the company name, but I bound my property insurance with this particular company in less time than it took me to do the same thing on my auto policy with a major online insurer. It's really this transformation and changing of perspective that allows companies like Lemonade to enter the market and disrupt, because they're turning the process on its head and trying to redesign it from scratch, rather than trying to deal with legacy systems and processes that many existing companies have to deal with today. So this really comes back to a balance, again, between automation and empathy. So while the process that I shared with you from the brief video there of Lemonade makes automation the key and the highlight, what can be lacking is empathy. Now, granted, in Lemonade's case, it's mostly renters insurance policies, so the likelihood of more complex claims where an empathy component might be required might be less than for property and casualty generally, but that's still an important component to be considered. So the Lexis report revealed that there is an alignment between carrier practices and consumer desires to expand automation with greater mutual benefit. So with automation becoming more pervasive, insurance carriers are creating efficiencies and reducing costs. But while consumers expect their insurers to offer easy digital access to products and services, they also want a personal touch. So I want to share something a little bit from some implementation that Allstate has done. So Allstate's Claims Innovation and Customer Experience VP Sean Broadfield described a fairly seamless electronic first notice of loss experience. It's coming pretty fast with elements of the process already in place today. So for them, their customers directed to take photos and verbally describe what happened, with their oral account converted into text and examined by artificial intelligence, along with relevant telematics data and information like the speed limit of the road. After liability is concluded, the AI can spit out an estimated cost of repair, and offers to schedule work at a body shop. CCC, which has a solution similar already in market, does or will soon do most of this, although the company has stressed that the importance of having a human being check the estimate pre-populated with obvious parts to be replaced. So all of that means, for at least for Allstate, 25% of their liability calls could be handled by AI in the next year. Losses are being detected, in fact, today by telematics and confirmed by the policyholder. And this ability helps to reduce total losses from telematics and immediately ship the vehicle to a salvage yard instead of a body shop, which saves them anywhere from about $400 to $650 per claim. Some of these statistics were really surprising to me when we uncovered them in our research. So in 2017, that marked the first time that there were more mobile internet-connected automobiles that joined the U.S. wireless networks than there were smartphones. There are over 20 million connected vehicles in the United States today. What that means is that the process of intelligent or instant FNOL is going to be accelerated. It's no longer going to be a feature that's limited to cutting-edge vehicles like Tesla. In fact, there were recently announced partnerships between CCC and Volvo to help automate that electronic or instant FNOL. So working with CCC, State rolled out its quick care enhancement for customers of its usage-based insurance program, which they call Safety 360. Quick Care integrates data from an installed dongle that's plugged into the OBD2 port of the car and manufactured by Octo. And it binds that together with CCC's crash detection algorithms and uses that data exchange platform to allow for a more proactive response to a first notice of loss. So that when a crash is detected, that algorithm interprets the information and puts it directly into State Auto's claim system. So that enables them to know immediately if one of their customers has been in a loss and be proactive. That proactive reach out is great for customer empathy. It allows the insurance company to be involved immediately at one of the most critical times in the loss, which could be at the accident scene. So it helps the customer have their empathy needs addressed. It helps the insurer by providing a great claims experience, and also by allowing them to help manage the claim costs really early in the process. So carriers don't need to just digitally transform in order to remain competitive. They need to transform successfully by bringing together data and expertise to create context and orchestrating a great digital intervention with human workers to enhance a process. Insurers can achieve the outcomes like improving customer experience and profitability. This enables insurance companies to overcome obstacles and to transform and turn their digital expectations into real results. So I'm going to pause here for any questions that the audience might have.
We haven't seen, don't have any yet, Michael.
Okay, great. Well, in that case, I thank everybody for joining today, and I'm going to turn it back over to Fred.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael. That was a great presentation. This concludes today's CIECAst. Please check our lineup of CIECAcasts for 2019 by visiting the Events tab on the CIECA website. Also on that tab, you'll find the annual CIECA conference, Connects 2019. It will be held, next slide please, will be held on September 16th through the 18th in Charlottesville, Virginia. Please go to CIECA Connects, that's CIECACONNEX.com. At Connects, in addition to the informational sessions, there will be a tour of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, their facility. This is one conference you really won't want to miss. There's also going to be a crash test, so please plan to attend. Next slide. If you're interested in AMI credit, please visit the AMI website and take the quiz there. Next slide. Please don't forget to follow CIECA on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Thank you for keeping abreast of the CIECA developments. Our standards are built by volunteers from all industry segments. For those of you that have contributed to our standards, we thank you. If you've not been involved and would like to participate, please contact Charlie Quirt, Stacy Phillips, or myself. As always, the video of this presentation will be available on the CIECA website within 48 hours. Again, thank you, Michael, and thank you, our audience, for participating.
Excuse me, we have a question from John Heder.
Oh.
Michael, do you have 1 minute? How many customers take the initial settlement on IFNOL?
So I'm going to parse that question out, and thank you for the question. So the first thing I want to point out is that on IFNOL, payment is not necessarily a required component of it. So to fit the definition of IFNOL, the first notice of loss process has to be kicked off by something other than the customer. So the vehicle notifying the insurance company or some sort of digital notification that doesn't involve the customer. The second part of the question, I think I'm going to interpret as what percentage of customers take the initial offer without following a supplement. So the answer to that is it depends. It depends on the number of channels that the insurance company offers. So there's an insurance company in particular I'm thinking of that Safe Flight Solutions does business with, that all of their drivable losses follow a self-service path. So for them, that number that take that first settlement on drivable, very low complexity claims tends to be in the 70–75% range, whereas others who may offer multiple channels for that same type of loss, that number could be considerably less, where customers are more likely or apt to go to a repair facility. I hope that answers the question.
I think we have a couple of more, too.
Yeah, there's some more coming in now. Of the 1.5 million claims taken by SafeLight, what percentage are reported by voice versus digital?
So of our claims today that are reported in the non-glass of the 1.5 million, the vast majority of them today are coming in via voice. SafeLight's very committed to taking the digital process that we've developed for glass and adapting that to non-glass. So that's an ongoing work that we are investing in today.
Okay.
So but let me just complete that answer. As a frame of reference in the glass space, for cash customers, in other words, customers who are not submitting a claim via insurance, almost 2/3 interact completely digitally. But when you look at the insurance segment, those customers who come to the auto glass portion of the business via their insurance company, that number drops to about 30% that follow the digital path. So the lesson learned there is, if we remove the barriers for the customer, we can triple the digital interaction versus when we put the process barriers in front of them, it does reduce their likelihood of following a digital path.
Okay, they come in at the very last minute. There's one more here. How long do you think it will be before all claims are FNOL? Is it tied to the connected cars saturating the marketplace, or will it be driven by phone technology?
So it's our belief that it's probably not likely in any time in the near future that all claims will be electronic. our experience tells us is that, back to that example that I shared of an emotional claim versus a transactional claim, we absolutely believe that there is room for and growth potential in fast-track claims, if you will. Certain claim types of low complexity that are more transactional in nature. Glass claims are a great example. Low complexity single vehicle accidents, another example. Or if you think about, I backed into my garage and put a dent in it. Those are all great examples of claim types that can be completely digitized and automated versus more complex ones where there's more vehicles involved. So where that number will actually settle is difficult to say, but we're very comfortable in knowing, based on our experience, that a significant volume will continue to require human involvement and empathy with some automation in the background for triage and fraud identification.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any. Do you see any, Stacy?
I think we're good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, again, thank you, Michael, and thank you, our audience, for participating. Everyone have a great day. Bye now.